those 10 Gippsland Lakes fishers need to stay, and they need to have access to Gippsland Lakes also, because they are the only link that the non-fishing public, which make up the majority, has to the resource. Hi everybody, welcome back. Thanks for sharing my last video. It is still going, which is great. The Victorian fishermen need it. The Victorian seafood consumers need it. And the many businesses supported by the commercial fishing industry in Victoria need it also. After this, I'm going to show you a video, an animation that was created by Tanya King from Deakin University. It is an animation that all seafood consumers and even recreational fishers need to see. Now, an important point in all of this, while we are defending the remaining 10 commercial fishermen in Gippsland Lakes, we are not coming out against recreational fishing. That is absolutely not the case. You see people argue it all the time, including in the comments. That's not what we're about. This is about the commercial fishers and the recreational fishers being able to access Gippsland Lakes fairly together. And it is also about the improvements being made to Gippsland Lakes, like the increased water flows, like the habitat restoration. It all needs to be done for the benefit of all Victorians, not just recreational fishers. All Victorians means that Gippsland Lakes fishers need to stay, and they need to have access to Gippsland Lakes also, because they are the only link that the non-fishing public, which make up the majority, has to the resource. So here it is.
Australia is a land girt by sea, with rich ocean resources. In fact, Australia has among the most sustainably managed fisheries in the world. This is great for us because, as Australians, we all own these resources, including the ones that end up on our plates. But not everyone accesses this rich source of omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D and iodine in the same way. Recreational fishers make up just under a quarter of all Australians. Professional fishers make up around 0.03% of the population. These groups overlap, with most professional fishers also wetting a line on their days off, while recreational fishers buy the species and quantity they can't catch themselves. The remaining 78% of Australians who own this resource rely on professionals to safely and sustainably get fish to their table, fishmonger, restaurant and fish and chip shop. The recent Australian trend to introduce recreational havens that exclude professional fishers tips the scales in favour of the minority and at the expense of those ordinary Australians who like to eat Australian seafood. Without professional fishers, 100% of Australia's seafood would be reserved for those whose hobby is angling, while over 3/4 of Australians would be denied access to the seafood they own. So, if you want to ensure that all Australians get their fair share of our country's rich seafood fare, support Fairfish.
So as you see, that's an important animation for everyone to pay attention to. Now, I'd like to give you all a challenge. If you could, everyone who's watching this video, please think of 3 friends that you know love to eat local seafood and just tag them in this video. That's the challenge. because all seafood consumers need to see that video. There's also, if the Queensland fishermen, I'll be moving on to the VMS issues next week. Spent a bit of time on Gippsland lakes because of the impending election. So next week will be VMS. We'll be talking about that, the overbearing regulations that the Queensland government is introducing into the fisheries, the estuary fisheries in Queensland. Eric Perez from QSIA has asked if the Queensland fishers could please go and fill in the survey, which is about the reform in Queensland. A lot of people have done it, which is great, but the more responses we can get to the survey, the better report that we can have at the end of it. You can find that on my page, which is, I think it's a green icon, Survey Monkey. There's also the vote going on, which is up to around 1,300 votes. If you haven't voted in that already, could you please, it's pinned to the top of the page, could you please vote on that? And just remember, the Labor Party stands for removing the 10 remaining Gippsland Lakes fishers. So if you enjoy eating local seafood, please do not vote for Daniel Andrews. And when this is not me saying that the other parties are perfect. The problem we have today, the problem that we face, is due to decades of politicians knowing that no one is going to react to the removal of the public's rights to access local seafood. So we all need to be in the know of what all parties are going to do with our rights to eat local seafood. You can stay up to date with my page. I will certainly keep Victorians up to date. I try to make sure that I get info from most states. There are also many other pages. There's co-op pages in all around Australia. There are association pages all around Australia. The one that's linked to the Gippsland Lakes closure, who has just released a fantastic video, which I would say that everyone needs to go and watch, is Victorian Seafood. That's the page. Go and find that, and go and find their little video that showcases Australian professional fishing and the seafood industry. That's all from me today. Please enjoy your weekend. Make sure you vote with your stomachs, because once it's gone, you can't get it back, unfortunately. And thanks again.